We hear in the scriptures so often the value of wisdom and humility. And today, the first reading from Sirach tells us again that wisdom is a gift. It's where we meet God. It's where the best stuff in us comes out. And then in the second reading, we're told bluntly in this letter to the Hebrews, we're not approaching the God of the Old Testament, the one where if we heard his voice, we'd shake and shudder and say, "Stop speaking, you're too much for us." Rather, we embrace this God that comes to us through Jesus Christ, and through whom grace and blessing and bountifulness flows for us and into us. And so it's in that context that we hear this gospel passage today. Now, before I mention it, I remember when I was a little boy, even before I was 5, my parents taught me things like this. And I don't know if kids are taught this way anymore because at the last Mass, 2 teenagers said they weren't. So I'm going to ask these two. Can you tell me, did your mommy or daddy ever say to you that you should chew your food with your mouth closed or open? Closed. He knows. What about, should you pick your nose in public? No, he said, no. So even by 5, children are taught it's etiquette, it's good behavior, it's social behavior that's nice. Pick your nose in public, it's gross. By first grade, I went to Catholic school, and the sisters, the same nuns that taught here, or the BVM sisters taught me, and they were strict, and they taught me in the first grade that you shouldn't brag about your gifts and abilities. That's not nice. You don't tell people, "Look at me, look how good I am, how smart I am." You let them notice it and tell you. That's the wise way to go. So Jesus is in this house. He's invited to a wealthy house, one of the leading Pharisees. And there's a whole bunch of other Pharisees and important people there. And first of all, wherever Jesus went, there was electricity in the air. People want to know what he's thinking and doing and going to say. So it says at the beginning of the gospel, when Jesus was there, they were looking at him, observing him, probably whispering, "What's he going to say next? Watch him. Be careful. Oh, look how he's turning." But then the gospel says, but the truth is, he was observing them. He was observing them, observing him, and he noticed this. And the great teacher that he was, he made a teaching out of everything. He noticed that people were scrambling for the most important seat. So we'll pick on Evelyn today, okay? And I'll tell you why. If you'll notice, the seats come all the way up here, and then they break in there. It was built for coffins. That's why. But one might say this is the most important seat because you got the most visibility there. So Jesus noticed that everybody was going for that seat. Everybody was trying to get the seat of honor, to look important. So he said to them, "Don't do that." He tells the whole crowd, when you come to a feast, a banquet, don't go look for the seat of honor, the highest place, because let me tell you how embarrassed you might be. What if you take that place thinking you're all important, and then someone else comes and the host, "Excuse me, I'm going to have to move you because somebody more important than you is here. Come with me," and they take you to the last seat. Oh, qué vergüenza, híjole. Awful. How embarrassing. Says it's much better when you walk in, take the lowest place, the last place. And then the host may come in and say, "My friend, what are you doing here? You have the seat of honor. Come with me." And so when you take the lowest place, you could be exalted by the host. But if you take the highest place and exalt yourself, you may be dumped in the lowest seat. That's just wise. And he doesn't even go into the reasons for it, because what if you learned that in first grade and you said, "I know that's a dumb thing to do, so I'm going to go to the lowest place because maybe I'll get the highest place, but I'm not going to go seek it." That's just a smart thing to do, but it doesn't have anything to do with your intentions. But then Jesus goes deeper. He just said that to the whole crowd, and maybe the host is over there watching Jesus, the great teacher that he invited, maybe to impress all of his guests, saying, "Look at that. That was a good lesson. He sure burned them." And right then, Jesus turns to him and says, "And you, my host, when you throw a banquet or a fancy dinner, don't invite your friends, your relatives, and important people like you did today. Don't invite them because you hope they'll pay you back tomorrow, like they probably will. No, I tell you, when you throw a big fancy dinner, invite the poor, the lame, the crippled, the blind, people who can't pay you back. See, if you invite people who can pay you back, you already got your reward. But if instead you go deeper and you are generous without asking anything, you give it away out of love, out of kindness and compassion, not because of what you'll get back. You already found what you're getting back. It's that joy, that peace inside that comes from generosity and kindness. That's deep wisdom. Now, I think, is my opinion, that Jesus was always trying to rescue people from sin and from darkness and from stupidity. He could see how people chose the lowest way. It's kind of like the law that says, you shall not kill. And if everybody in this church can say, well, that shows how good I am. I haven't killed anybody today. In fact, I've never killed anybody. I'm 70 years old. I've never killed anybody. Bravo. Jesus says, that's the lowest. Don't even talk badly about your neighbor. Don't cuss each other out. Don't say things behind their back. Say only the good that people need to hear. Way up there. He sets the bar so high. You want to live a good life and know the kingdom alive in you? Love always. It's much more than just not killing. So Jesus said, that's a good thing. It doesn't say never invite your friends or relatives or people who invite you back. Jesus isn't going for the literal. He's going for the deeper issue that's deep in the spirit. It's the attitude inside that says, I'll just give and expect nothing in return. And when people discover that, there's a whole different kind of life that comes alive in them. It's not just wisdom, it's really knowing the kingdom of God. At the last Mass, we sang this incredible song. The theology and the words are just to die for. It's called All Are Welcome, this song. And I'm just going to read verse 1 and 3 that we sang at the last Mass. Let us build the house where love can dwell. That's this place here. Build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and children tell how hearts learn to forgive. Built of hopes and dreams and visions, rock of faith and vault of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end division. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome here. Let us build a house where love is found, in water, wine, and wheat. A banquet hall on holy ground where peace and justice meet. Here, the love of God through Jesus is revealed in time and space as we share in Christ the feast that frees us. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome here. That's what Jesus points to. He points to that place or space within where love and forgiveness and life and blessing and God can be experienced and revealed and shared. You know, it's so strange, and you know, I think to myself as I read and I look at life, and people say, you know, we need to attract more people. Where are the people going? They're not coming to Mass, and there's a lot of truth to it. And I think the reason is they don't know how to connect with God through the visible, because God essentially is invisible. That's why we use all our symbols. We don't just talk about a new life. We use water, the sign of life, and bless ourselves. We cross ourselves. We take all of our rich symbols and we share them and touch them and feel them and do them together and do them alone. It's not that God is more here than He is out on the street. God's everywhere. You can't say that God is somewhere more, but in a sense, it's more when there's symbols that open us to recognize. If we say, this is holy ground, it's not that that ground out there isn't holy, but if we communally say, this is holy ground, just coming into it, we experience the holy. We set it aside to be holy for us. It's not that it is more holy, but because we acknowledge it, we name it as holy, then the holiness of it is able to touch us differently or more deeply. It's making a space. It's making a place within where those good things can happen. Today, Jesus says the simple. I learned it in first grade. You shouldn't brag. I'll tell you the experience as I lived it. I lived it all my life because I learned it early. But I get to college, my first year, seminary. I'd already been through 4 years. By the time I graduated from the high school seminary, about half my class had left. But when I went to college, another half came in. People who had gone to regular high schools joined the seminary and college. There was this young man. He's in our music books here. We had evenings of entertainment, and people who could sing would get up and sing or do whatever they did. And he got up there, played the guitar so beautifully, plucking away a song that he had written. The name of it was Timothy Cauliflower, Newspaper Vendor. Now, it was a story about a man that people called him Timothy Cauliflower, and he sold newspapers. And it was a story in song. It was beautiful, beautiful. He wrote it. I don't know if he could read music, but he wrote this song. And afterward, I went up to him because I was in music, had been already for 4 years, my 5th year, played the organ at Mass and led the choirs. And so I went up to him, truly moved, and I said his name, and I said, wow, that song was beautiful, and you wrote it? And almost sheepishly said, yes, yes. I said, that is just gorgeous, and played so beautifully. He said, thank you, thank you. So humble. Hear this talent and goodness. Now, I already met the beautiful music, but I also met the beautiful man behind the music, humble and just grateful and gracious. In contrast to that, there was a man who was 3 years ahead of me who also wrote music for organ, piano, but mostly for choral music. And he wrote this piece, so similarly, after I heard it, it was the first time I'd heard it, I went up after the Mass, I was going to congratulate him, and I said, you know, so-and-so, and he says, wasn't that good music? Have you ever heard anything like it? It's my best piece. I really like it, and everybody likes it. Don't you think it's great? He sucked all the oxygen out of the room. There was none left. I couldn't tell him I liked it. It was wonderful. He already told me it was. And I heard beautiful music, but I didn't find a beautiful man there. He didn't learn the lesson from first grade. And if he had just zipped it, he would have found the blessing of people coming up and saying, thank you. That was really beautiful, really touched my life. What a gift to get that. He destroyed the gift before he could even receive it. Jesus knows what he's talking about. It's the humble, the non-braggarts, the people who are willing to share their gifts and let them be appreciated. Let them gift others, because usually when they gift others, the gift comes back in abundance. And Jesus seemed to care about us being able to experience graciousness and giftedness and love and blessing. He was and is someone who tries to open our spirit, that place, that space where we can find his life.